Brad Daugherty says that the 47 team could have kept their Kroger sponsorship. Toni Breidinger is moving up to the Truck Series in 2025. Plus, let's talk about the rumors of the NASCAR EV Series, plus the potential Chevy body for 2026. Welcome back to Break Hard. I'm Matt. Before we get into the news real quick, I want to confess my love for a steel backpack blower. It is the greatest thing I've ever used in my life. The electric battery-powered leaf blower that I have been previously using to blow all the leaves out of my yard, yeah, it's going in the trash. Not really, it's going out in the garage to help dry off the cars when I get done washing them. But if you have a steel backpack blower, yeah, why didn't anybody tell me how great these things were to start with? Blew my entire yard, all the leaves, right out to the curb. Super easy. Greatest thing I've ever done. Now I'm in love with this steel backpack blower. I'm just going to blow the entire neighborhood I'm going to blow all the leaves in the entire neighborhood. Pause on what I said before, but now you get it. Let's get into today's news before I say something stupid once again. Brad Daugherty called into SiriusXM NASCAR on Tuesday and talked about the team's name change from JTG Daugherty Racing over to Hyak Motorsports. Plus, he talked about Kroger departing the team at the end of 2024 and moving over to Roush Keselowski for 2025. Brad Daugherty said basically that the 47 team at Hyak Motorsports, they had the opportunity to hold on to that Kroger partnership, but decided to go in a different direction. He mentioned that he had heard that Kroger, mentioned that they wanted to go in a different direction. They wanted to win races, which they did do with JTG. It's worth noting that they definitely did that, including a Daytona 500, including a race in the playoffs this year with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., but they wanted to go in a different direction over to RFK. Totally fine. Stuff like that happens all the time. But I found it interesting that Brad came out and was like, no, we had the opportunity to hold on to him. We decided to go in a different direction with Hyak because they're looking for vendors outside of the sport that maybe want to get into the sport. Who are those? He didn't go into details on that. I guess it is also worth noting as well that when he talked about the Kroger sponsorship, he said there's a common misconception that Kroger's writing this big check to JTG and they were going out and using that and running the series. He said while they were giving money, they still had to go out and find money for performance over at the 47 team. So it wasn't this like Eric Almirola sweetheart type of sponsorship maybe that he had with Smithfield or other big partnerships that we've seen in the past. It still seemed like, yeah, they were getting money, but like they were still having to go out and find more money on top of that for the team and for the 47 car to be able to compete. Now, of course, Tad and Jody Geschichter have departed the team, divested out of it. Gordon Smith now takes over as the owner of it. Brad Daugherty listed as a co-owner. Ernie Cope, who's the competition director over there as well, also listed as a co-owner in the press release, which is pretty interesting. On the Teardown podcast this week, Jordan Bianchi and Jeff Gluck kind of insinuated that Gordon Smith kind of took over the team more than it was Tad and Jody, selling the team and getting out of it. It seemed like it was a bit of a takeover there. Jordan said he's excited to tell the story when it's ready to be told. And I'll be honest, I'm fascinated to hear what the story is because who doesn't love a good takeover story and knowing the inner workings of what things, what happened and how things transpired the way that they do. So 47 team back on track in 2025, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Brad did laugh and say, no, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is not buying the team. No, Kevin Harvick's not buying the team. They are full steam ahead. Hyak Motorsports into 2025. Obviously, we'll have to, wait for their announcements on who their sponsors are going to be and things like that. But they seem very content with their future. And hey, maybe they are going to be one of these new up and coming teams that can, compete for wins more than just on the super speedways. And maybe that's what we'll see from them in the years to come. Have to wait and see how all of it plays out. But I did appreciate Brad calling into SiriusXM and kind of talking about, the team giving their side of the story in a sense and giving an outlook towards the future. We also learned on Tuesday what I think most of us kind of already knew. That's that Toni Breidinger will be full-time in the Truck Series in 2025. She'll be driving the number 5 truck over at Tricon Garage, the truck that Dean Thompson drove in 2024. He has other plans for 2025. We'll have to wait and see what those are going to be. But for Toni, she moves up to the Truck Series full-time for the first time in 2025. She has 4 Truck Series starts to her name, no top 5s, no top 10s, an average finish of 20.8, an average start of also 20.8. Weirdly enough, she made 1 Truck Series start in 2024 and she finished 27th. But in her other starts, her 3 starts that she had in 2023, she had an average finish of 18.7. So there's that. I think there's something to build off of there. But when the news came across the group chat that I have, my response was I'm excited to watch her run 18th every single weekend. That was without looking at her stats because that really just feels like the place that she's going to be. I think that Tanner Gray is probably going to be a step above her. Corey Heim is going to be 18 steps above them. And then Toni's going to be back down here. And she's got a lot. It's a big learning curve, right? Like it's going to be a lot to learn for next season. She does have an extensive ARCA career at this point, 65 starts. In those 65 starts, she has 4 top 5 finishes, 27 top 10s. In 2024, she ran a full ARCA season that resulted in 0 top 5s and 11 top 10s. So you would like to see more out of her, in terms of production on the racetrack. She has a huge social media following. Like, I'm not joking when I say huge. On Instagram, she has 2.3 million followers. On TikTok, she has 2.6 million followers. She's done big brand partnerships. She's had Victoria's Secret on her truck and car before. She has Cane's as a sponsor as well, Cane's Chicken Fingers. She is a person that attracts sponsorship, and that's it's definitely because she has a large social following. She's an influencer. She can generate and turn what she does online and turn that into sponsorship on the racetrack. And I'm not here to fault her for it, because that's half the battle, right? Is attracting sponsors. Now you would just like to see an increased level of production out of her. In terms of comparisons, yeah, I like I said, I think she's going to be like that 18th place driver. And we've had plenty of those in the truck series, right? It's kind of feels like that's where she's going to end up at. I know the Hailie Deegan comparisons are going to be what everybody is immediately going to look towards. And I think that that's probably fair. For the first year at least, and then we'll see what she has, if she gets a second season in the truck. But I think that's probably the realistic expectation for it. I don't expect her to contend for a playoff spot outside of like a random win at a super speedway or something like that. But I do expect her to contend for top 15 finishes, if not 15 to 20. That's I think where the expectation probably is, and then build off of that. It's, set realistic goals and then build from there. So we'll see what she can do in 2025 over at Tricon Garage. All right, let's talk about NASCAR Rumors Nostalgia once again on Instagram, because they continue to have good information about what they're talking about. And one of the things they talked about on Tuesday is the NASCAR EV, as well as the 2026 Chevy body. Let's talk about the EVs real quick. In their post, they mentioned that the development of the EV is far enough along where OEMs are submitting their bodies for those cars. Now, that shouldn't really come as a shock. The EV is pretty far along in production. We saw it run at Chicago. We've seen it at other tracks before, or this past season, doing demo laps. They've done a lot of testing with it at this point as well. Yeah, it's pretty far along in terms of development, and NASCAR has plans for this to be its own series. Let me be clear. No, it is not replacing the Cup Series. It's not replacing the Xfinity Series. It's not replacing the Truck Series. Those will stay as internal combustion series. This EV series will be its own standalone series, likely partnering with Thrill One Entertainment, the same people that operated Nitro Cross, which has now gone defunct for the time being. Nitro Circus, it's Dana White's company based out of Las Vegas. It will likely be its own standalone type of races. We'll have to wait and see how all that's going to play out. But it's not a surprise that OEMs are submitting their bodies for this car, because eventually we will likely see it on track. And obviously General Motors is doing a lot of EV stuff. Toyota, not so much. They're more focused on the hybrid side of things. And we've seen Ford get into the EV game with the Mustang Mach-E, as well as a few other, the Lightning and a couple other vehicles that they have as well. So not really a surprise to see the OEMs submitting their bodies. Now, the topic everybody wants to talk about, the 2026 Chevy body. So this kind of falls in line with what I had heard a few months ago at this point, and that's the fact that General Motors did have a body in the wind tunnel. And I've asked every single person I know involved in the Chevy camp, in the General Motors camp, about this. And they are guarding this like it's the secret recipe at KFC. Not a single person will mention it. You even bring it up and they act like it's Area 51, like it's Men in Black. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, no, haven't heard anything about it. Liars. I know some of you have at this point, but I respect the secrecy around this. So on NASCAR Rumors Nostalgia, they talk about it being a Chevy body coming for 2026. Now, obviously we know Camara's been discontinued. Malibu's been discontinued. Impala discontinued. That leaves the Corvette as the car left in the Chevy pipeline that could become a race car. Not going to be. It would be absolutely ridiculous. It's a mid-engine sports car. It looks nothing like the current Cup car. And if you did have to try to Frankenstein that into a Cup car, it's going to actually make the Toyota Supra in the Xfinity Series look like the road-going car. And it doesn't at all. Like, not even close. So what we're likely in line for here is a new type of hybrid that's likely going to come out from Chevrolet, and we're going to get the announcement and the car at kind of the same time, and the car will likely be on the racetrack before it's actually for sale on the road or it's in production as the car is going to come out, because 2026, again, not that far away, guys. We're talking about 13 months at this point. And if you're going to introduce a body for 2026, you're going to have to start putting that through the process with NASCAR this year. And then you're going to want to probably announce it before the end of the year. So realistically, we're looking at, I don't know, 9 to 10 months from now for a lot of this to happen. Bodies are going to have to be made as well. There's a lot of Chevy teams out there. So what we're likely going to see is either a new type of hybrid sports car, whatever. They mentioned that the Camaro will likely come back eventually as a either EV sports car, hybrid sports car, something along those lines, or we're going to get an entirely new body, or they're going to do like what they did with the Chevy SS, where they're like, oh, we have this 4-door performance sedan down in Australia as the Holden Commodore. We're going to bring that up here, put it as a Chevy SS, and then run that. Maybe they're just going to take the Cadillac CT4, CT5 Blackwing and be like, hey, this is a Chevy body now as well. Here, you can have this for a couple of seasons. I don't know if that's what's going to happen. I know a lot of people want to see the Cadillac name come into NASCAR. I'm one of those people. As I've said on here before, I have a CT4 Blackwing. I would love to see a race car on track of the car I own. That would be very cool. But I don't know that's going to happen. I used to also have a 1984 Chevy Monte Carlo SS. That was my first car ever, actually. Restored cowl induction hood on it, lowered drop spindles because, of course, it was fantastic. But hey, it was also a NASCAR race car at one point. So in my lifetime, I've had 2 cars that have been, well, one car that's been on a NASCAR track. It would be cool if the Cadillac was as well. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out, but that's likely what's going to happen. If it is a Chevrolet, they're either taking a body from an existing car that they have, or they're going to introduce it, and it will likely hit the racetrack before you can actually buy it in on dealership lots. Have to wait and see how all of that plays out. No, the Nova's not coming back. No, the Chevelle's not coming back. No, the Monte Carlo's not coming back. No, the Impala, the Malibu, and Camaro currently are not coming back. I know people are going to talk about that. As much as we all like to see muscle cars come back, it's just not happening. So it's unfortunate, I know. So let me know in the comments what you think about Brad Daugherty's comments, Toni Breidinger moving up to the truck series, as well as the EV bodies, and potentially what's happening for 2026 with Chevrolet. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok at BreakHard, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at BreakHardBlog.